Hello, hello, hello. You are watching SOS, where I am saving our sex lives one bedroom at a time. My name is LaKeesha Hines, and this month, the month of June, there is something so spectacular, something so fantabulous that has taken place this month of June. And I just want to make sure that everybody is fully aware of what's going on, because you know what? We are literally celebrating Father's Day the entire month of June, the whole month. So you still literally have like 3 more days to make that special someone in your life feel exceptional. Now, I feel exceptional today because I am joined by my baby daddy, my husband, my boyfriend, my boo thing. That guy, my homie lover friend, Mr. Willie Hines, my husband. Thank you so much for coming back. You've been with me all month, and I am just like, I'm so excited.
I thank you again for having me. I just want to reiterate the appreciation for you dedicating these 30 days of June for fathers and men like myself. Historically, as I've stated before, Mother's Day begins January 1st of each year. Father's Day begins the Saturday before or even the Sunday of. So definitely appreciate you carving out some time for us this month.
Well, you're awesome, Dad. So speaking of awesome dads, we have our founding father, the fantabulous, the extraordinary, the brilliant Mr. Sir Hassani Pettifor. Thank you so much, Mr. Pettifor. Listen, this calendar is so full, you all, but he literally carved out just a little bit of time for us today, and I am so thankful that you're here gracing us with your presence. How you doing today, sir?
I am elephant elated, hippopotamus happy, and peacock proud
All right.
LaKeesha, listen, this show, I tell you, I watch it as a fan and I'm blown away by what I see. The content, the information you give is incredible. But then to have the both of you here, it's an honor for me to be on the show. So I'm glad to be here.
Well, thank you so much for being here. We are going to dive right in. You all, listen, this month we've been talking about the things that the husbands talk about around the water cooler, right? The things they talk about at the barbershop, in the locker room, at the gym, in between different what do you call it when y'all play basketball? Different rounds. What is it? Sets? I don't know. Games, whatever y'all do, right? And so we are bringing it to light, and I have two heavyweights here with me today to weigh in on some of these comments, because what we were talking about before is how when we don't resolve our issues, how that can impact what goes on in the bedroom. And the foundational scripture that we used was Ephesians 4:26-27. It says, in your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry, and do not give the devil a foothold. So what are we saying? We want you all to have these conversations, to talk about the things that are really bothering you. And what my husband so eloquently pointed out is that you guys have been talking for a real long time, but the issue is,
have you been listening?
There's that. So we want to make sure that you're listening today. So we're going to dive into our very first complaint. Remember, these came from like 19 husbands' confessions. And so go ahead, Mr. Hines. What's the first one?
I hate when my wife is mad at me and won't talk to me. At least tell me why you are mad.
So, ladies, what translation? You got an attitude. You're walking around with your face all scrunched up, and those wrinkles forming in the middle of your forehead, and you are not verbalizing what is going on inside of you. And your husband knows you. He knows something is wrong. He asks you what's going on, and you say, nothing. You good? You all right? I'm fine. Lies from the pit of hell. So what he is saying is, I want to know what you're mad about. At least explain. How do you feel when that happens?
The challenge with that is, historically, as men, we're fixers. So when you wake up in the morning, our first responsibility is thank God for, allowing us to wake up. Our next responsibility is you. So when we wake up in the morning, we are geared to making sure that you are good for the remainder of the day, as being our number one here on earth. If you're not expressing your concerns, frustrations, we are historically fixers and will not stop until we fix it. The challenge is we're trying to fix a problem that we don't know exists and how to fix it. And 9 times out of 10, we apply the wrong fix to whatever this issue is by trying to guess what's going on. which
Mm.
leads to a bad experience throughout the day and doesn't lead to the result at the end of the day with potential of intimacy.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you, Willie. I think for men, it's very frustrating. There's this, I don't know, there's this belief that women are more of the talkers and men are more of the silent ones. And we find that it's less about gender and more about personality. There are
Mm.
certain people who just don't talk.
Mm-hmm.
They shut down, right? They emotionally disconnect. They build up these walls. And so, whether you're a talker or you're just a quiet person, when you completely shut down and outwardly we can see that there's something bothering you based upon something inwardly that you refuse to share, it keeps us locked out. It's just like we're knocking on the door. We can see you on the other side. You won't answer. You won't let us in, and we feel stuck in this place. And it's very frustrating because, to Willie's point, we are fixers. Now, whether we have the ability to fix it or not, we have the desire to fix it. And
Mm-hmm.
when things are not fixed and things are not going well, then it impacts other areas of the relationship. To your point, LaKeesha, what happens outside of the bedroom, if things aren't well outside of the bedroom, it has a direct effect on what happens inside the bedroom. And so many men are struggling to try to understand, trying to communicate and connect with their wives, but many wives just completely shut them down. They'll open up and share with their girlfriends, they'll
Mm-hmm.
complain and they'll vent, but they'll be one wordy when it comes to their spouse. And so they're aggravating the problem even more.
Yeah, when we're not clear in our communication, or we automatically assume that our husbands aren't going to get it, they're not going to understand. Oh, he doesn't get it, he won't understand, and we don't give him an opportunity to try to weigh in on whatever's going on or to try to fix whatever is going on, then we're actually doing ourselves a disservice. But instead of us getting frustrated and angry with ourselves, we get mad with our husband.
Yeah.
We get mad at him. Well, why didn't you know? You should have just known. No, this is why he's asking, because he doesn't know and he's trying to understand. But if you won't take the time and you won't be patient enough to break it down for this brother in terms that he can understand, then you can't be mad at him. You have to be mad at yourself because you're not doing what needs to be done to bring him up to speed. And it's your responsibility, wife, to make sure that your husband understands exactly what your expectations of him are. But if you're not communicating, then how will he know?
LaKeesha, you use three words: break it down,
Break
right?
it down.
Which is so much more than just articulating your position. After you've done it, you got to break it down in a way that he can receive it. For a lot of men, you got to draw us a picture. Like, you got to make that thing so crystal clear that we get it. And then after you've articulated it, why don't you ask us what we heard? What did we receive? What message
Mm-hmm.
did we get, so that you know it landed the correct way? Because oftentimes we attach our own meaning and interpretation to the words that our wives speak. So we'll walk away with a completely different impression, which leads to more frustration because you think that we're on the same page and we're not.
I'll add to that when you speak about that verbal communication. Some feel, and again, as you stated, Asani, it's not necessarily gender specific, it's more of your personality. But historically, people feel that women are the best communicators. I'm here to state that just the person that talks the most, not necessarily the best communicator.
Very true.
um,
Very true.
and a lot of that communication is observing, is nonverbal communication that speaks volumes to certain things. So when you're mad at us or don't break it down for us, we're left to assume what's wrong and try to fix something that may not even be a problem.
Okay, so you trying to put my old business in the street? Like,
And we're going to be transparent, and we may be speaking to someone right now and allow them to grow as we have.
so they can learn from our testimony.
Please don't fall into our mistakes.
Yeah, listen, it was bad. It was really, really bad years and years and years ago. When I think about how I did coin myself as the best communicator in a relationship. And I got a rude awakening. He was like, yeah, you talk a lot. You have a lot of words. You're eloquent. And you can say big words and you're using all this psychology stuff. But at the end of the day, like, I don't know what you're talking about. So like, that is a waste of time and energy if I'm not understanding still what it is that you want or you need or what you expect of me. And I can't make assumptions again that you just get it. So I love what you said, Hassani, about having a person to regurgitate what they heard, because it's like that way they're able to either confirm, right, that they have heard you appropriately and that your communication was effective or whatever the case may be, or it gives you an opportunity to correct, and it gives you an opportunity to then break it down even further if that's what you need to do, or draw the picture to his point.
Yes, indeed.
You know, and I'm not a cook and everybody knows this, right?
Right.
If I make a meal and I serve it up to you and I'm excited about it, I'm like, eat it. And you think it's horrible. It's not even edible. And you push the plate back. Well, who's at fault? The person who's eating or the person who made the dish? It would be me, the person who made the dish. And sometimes we think just because we made a dish and we've given it to you, then we're excellent at what we do. No. There's a reciprocal relationship. Like, it's my job to make sure that you enjoy the meal. If you're like, this is good, I want more, it means that I did a good job in preparing the dish. If you push it away, then something was wrong. And so likewise, when it comes to communication, the effectiveness of your communication is in the other person's ability to receive, understand, and repeat back to you what is said, so that you both are on the same page.
Agree, 100%. One other thing I'll say I want to bring you into, because I think that this is something that is oftentimes overlooked, right? So this quote is all about the wife not communicating. She's mad. She won't tell her husband why she's mad. He's tried to figure it out. He can't come up with anything. He's put in some strategies. Nothing is working. Well, then he says, all right, well, I have done my best job. Like, I have put forth my best effort. Nothing has worked. He's gone on about his day. And he's like, okay, done. She'll talk when she's ready to talk. And then when it comes time for bedroom time, and he goes over, but she's still mad.
Yeah.
And then she rejects. Now he's like, well, what's up? What's going on? Well, I've been mad all day. You didn't da-da-da-da-da. And then he is totally taken aback and confused, because I've been trying to talk to you all day. I need y'all to speak into this, because I know this happens.
Yeah.
I know for sure it happens.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, now foundation causes division. There's going to be some divisive actions regarding lack of communication or not sufficient communication when it comes to things of this nature. And unfortunately, in situations, the person who has the issue may feel like the other person doesn't care because they've moved on. Other things have to occur throughout the day, whether you have jobs, children, whatever those things are. The other person feels like they don't care, when it's really, I care. I just don't know what to do.
Right. And this is why, Willie, I think it's important to really over communicate because to that point, like, if I don't know what to do, I don't know what to say, I don't know how to respond, sometimes I say nothing. And me saying nothing or doing nothing it lands differently for the other person. So to the point, they feel like, well, you don't care. You're not showing any empathy, no remorse. There's just no compassion here. I feel disconnected. So fine, since you're not meeting my need, when it's time for you to get your need met, just remember this moment. Remember this moment. And that's how it happens. And, when couples stop touching, when couples stop having sex, 9 times out of 10, it's not because there's anything physically wrong. It's because there's something wrong in the relationship that hasn't been addressed effectively.
Almost every time. That is what it is. Well, listen, this is good. Like, we literally are just getting into this conversation. And so I don't want you to swipe left or swipe right. We're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. You are watching SOS. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Welcome back. You're watching SOS, and I'm joined by my wonderful husband, Willie Hines, and our founding father, Sir Hassani Pettiford, today. And we are touching on some complaints that husbands have and just making sure that we give a voice to who are often the voiceless. We want to make sure that they are heard this entire month of June. And so we're continuing our conversation again about some of the things that wives do that actually drive them cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But sometimes you've been driven cocoa for Cocoa Puffs for a really, really long time, husbands as well as wives, and your relationship is in dire straits at this particular point. And you know what you need? You need last chance weekend. You need to make sure that you reach out and call that guy right there on the right side of the screen and make sure that you show up and have your face in the place, because I tell you, it is a transformational weekend. And if you are on the verge of divorce, you're trying to figure out what you need to do, last chance weekend is where you need to be. Did you want to speak on that, sir?
I mean, you said it so eloquently. It's just, 3 days. And people often wonder, man, can 3 days really make a difference?
Yes.
Absolutely, it can make a difference because you're spending 12. I mean, we're in sessions for 12 plus hours a day. So you're getting 36 hours minimum. Imagine 36 hours of focused, intentional time as opposed to 36 weeks,
Mm,
right? To do in 3 days what it would take you 36 weeks to do. Yeah,
yes.
it's transformational because what we have found is that if we're spending an hour a week for that, first of all, we won't even make it to 36 weeks because we would have given up, thrown in the towel, call it quits because it's taken too long and I can't deal with this anymore and I'm not seeing change. And so the
Mhm.
very process doesn't work for most couples. And that's why we created this process, which is, to your point, transformational.
Yes, sir. So make that call today. All right. So our next quote is kind of similar to the last one. So we won't spend a lot of time here, but it basically says, I hate when my wife shuts me down for days for a disagreement that wasn't completely my fault. So we're talking about wives giving their husbands the cold shoulder. And we want to emphasize in the bedroom. Okay. You've
Mhm.
closed up shop in the bedroom. Legs are closed for
Mhm.
days because of an argument that took place last week. This brother has moved on. He is over
Mhm.
it and he is ready to connect with you, but you are still stuck 4 or 5 days back in the past, and now you're giving him the cold shoulder. So I just want Hassani, can you wait into this one?
Well, I definitely want to hit the sex piece, but when I first saw this, immediately what came to my mind, I hate when my wife shuts me down for days. Like a lot of times women complain that men just don't talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just like a turtle in a shell, a turtle's in that shell to protect oneself from the dangers of the outside world. So it slowly sticks its neck out to see if things are safe. And
Yep.
once it finally does, something dangerous happens and he closes up again. So a lot of times when a man gets to the point where he wants to share, he's shut down. His voice is robbed from him. Like his position, his idea, his whatever he's trying to communicate doesn't even have 2 seconds to breathe before it's snatched from him and made about something else. So you
Mm-hmm.
robbed him of his voice. You refuse to hear anything that he has to say. And so he winds up feeling hopeless. So
Yeah.
he wants to communicate, but you won't allow him to. And I can't tell you how frustrating that is. And when a man feels like he can't be heard by his wife, he will go in other directions to have his
Yes.
voice heard. And it doesn't always mean infidelity. But
Mm-hmm.
if my boy John or Robert or James is a safer place for me than the wife in my own home, listen, that's the beginning of a slippery slope that we want to correct immediately.
Yeah, and then sometimes, when you have husbands who are very close to their mothers, sometimes this impacts them being able to cut those apron strings, right? And move
Hmm.
away from their mom, because their mom is the safe place for them. She's always been the safe place, especially if it was a single mom and it was
Mhm,
just the two of them. So you
mhm,
want him to disconnect from his mother and connect with you, but you haven't created a safe space. Georgia Wells says, hello, my situation is reversed. It's the husband on shutdown. So gorgeous, I gotta ask you, because I love my ladies, and normally I'm riding for you, but for this month I have to make sure that we give a voice to the voiceless, right? And make sure that we're looking at ourselves. That's what it's all about. Each and every one of us has to do this introspection and ask ourselves, have I contributed to this in any way? I'm not blaming you, sis. I don't know your situation, but I am asking you to take a long, hard look in the mirror at yourself, reflect over the years, and ask yourself, have I been guilty of what it is that Hassani's talking about? Has your husband, has your husband stuck his head out of the turtle shell, but then it wasn't a safe space for him, so he went back inside? And maybe that's a question for him. Perhaps that's a conversation that the two of you have, that, hey, honey, do you feel as if whenever you've tried to communicate that I've shut you down?
And I'm sorry.
It definitely requires a healthy level of vulnerability, gorgeous, with that. To go to that place and say, I don't know what I've done. I want us to be better communicators with each other. Whatever I've done, I apologize for. I am open to receive whatever it is that you have to give, because I want this relationship to grow. So it requires a healthy dosage of retrospect, introspect, and vulnerability in those situations.
And it, you know, the last part of this statement, like, because I broke this down in two different parts. It's, you know, she shuts him down for days for a disagreement that wasn't completely his fault. And so we have found that a lot of times you have wives that will project on their husbands and make them responsible for something that they had nothing to do with. So maybe, you know, we've seen it when a husband does something wrong, whatever that wrong thing was, like, the punishment doesn't always fit the crime. Like, where's all of this coming from? It could be built up, unresolved issues that has impacted her because of her relationship with a past partner, her relationship with her dad, something that happened at work. And now he gets the brunt of all of the aggression that he had nothing to do with. And so now you've made everything his fault. And a lot of men, unfortunately, are complicit because there's this belief in society that says the wife is always right. So if we hold on to that mentality, the wife is always right, it does something wrong within the mind of the woman and the man. And it reinforces more bad behavior, and over the course of time creates a huge crisis that may be hard to recover from.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
all great points. And LaKeesha spoke on the from the sexual standpoint. So I'll hit that right quick. That clock ticks.
Which
encourage everyone, every spouse, every relationship to have that sexual barometer to say, hey, how often do you need this?
That clock.
For men, a lot of times it's, I don't care what we're going through, every 3 to 4 days, I need this expression of love.
Oh, it's the climax clock that he's referring to. So the climax clock.
It's not to negate everything that's going on. And sometimes it may not be appropriate, but you want to make sure that you all know each other's sexual barometer. At what day do you need that?
How many days
can we go without? Yeah. It's real.
No. Connection clock. How many days do you go without connection? You have to have that conversation with your partner. So regardless of what these arguments are, these disagreements are, that should give you motivation to want to go ahead and resolve it, because you know what, tomorrow it's connection time, so we need to make sure that we deal with whatever we got going on, because tomorrow is connection time, and they are not going to forget, and they're not going to care that we're having some type of conflict right now. Tomorrow is connection time. So what do we need to do to make sure that still happens? Because that's what's on the calendar.
I think that needs to be reinforced, because there's so many sexless marriages out there. And when we say sexless, we don't mean no sex. It's just, just like being legally blind. It doesn't mean that you can't see, but your vision is really impaired. It's very difficult to see. Likewise, a sexless marriage, on average, is a couple who engages in sex once a month, as little as 10 times a year. I mean, that's sexless. And then there are cases where it's more extreme than that. And so many men literally not just are starving, but in so much deep pain, because to Willie's point, that is the way in which we connect and express love. And so oftentimes when there is no sex, for men, it feels like a loveless marriage.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Our last quote. You got this one?
I hate when my wife always has an attitude, specifically when we're in public. It's so embarrassing.
So here's my contribution to this, and then I'm just
Contribute,
gonna
baby.
let y'all
Contribute.
have at it. Okay.
Contribute.
So my contribution to that is, this is Couples Academy, right? So we deal with a lot of couples who are going through infidelity recovery, or they're dealing with infidelity. They haven't made that call, so they haven't started their process yet, but they have experience with infidelity. And of course, that's not all we do here, but that's our specialty. So when there's infidelity, the betrayed oftentimes feels embarrassed when they discover that other people know or knew that their spouse was cheating, right? So what they will do in turn is intentionally embarrass their spouse in public, because this is them trying to get retribution. They're trying to take matters into their own hands and embarrass their spouses. I've even had clients who have been out in public talking about the affair on the phone with a girlfriend, out in public for other people to hear, around friends, around family members. That is intentionally trying to humiliate your spouse, and no good can come from it. So a lot of times this is calculated and it's intentional, which does so much hurt and harm to that individual and ultimately your marriage. And then we can't even begin to talk about your sex life, because who wants to have sex with someone who intentionally is trying to hurt them? I don't know anybody
Yeah,
signing up for that.
yeah. And you know what's damaging about that? This public outward expression of disgust and disdain and contempt that one may have for their spouse. The reality is, a lot of cases, these couples wind up staying together.
Right.
Now, whether they get help and they improve their relationship, they wind up staying together.
Right.
And then other people, friends, family, are looking at you like boo boo the fool for staying in something that you've been complaining about. And now you
Right.
got to defend your position and defend your spouse. And what happens is you'll turn other people off permanently against your spouse. So now social gatherings are awkward, holidays are awkward, family get-togethers are awkward because you didn't put our business out in the street, or maybe you didn't directly say it, but the way you show up and the way you act out, the world knows that something's going on up in here.
Exactly. And then you stand behind, well, I didn't tell anybody. Yeah, but look at how you act. Look at how you're treating this person out in public. So to your point, like, you don't even have to say the words. People can put two and two together and figure out there's something he messed up real bad for her to act like that.
I'll just say this, keep it short. I would hope and I wish that we showed publicly our affection as loud as we show our dissatisfaction for our partners. If we were able to get to that point, these communities will be a lot stronger. Our sex lives will be a lot stronger as well. While I'm not a public displayer of affection, I will never speak to my wife in any manner other than love while we're in public. And I'm not a yeller, I'm not a fusser or anything like that anyways. But I would encourage those that are those public displayers of dissatisfaction to look internally and also show those ways of satisfaction. And as you stated, Sonny, 99% of the time the couple stays together, and the only portion of that relationship that people know is your dissatisfaction for your spouse.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah, I just, again, it's about respect. And the ultimate thing that men need is respect. And so if you are disrespecting this man in private and then turn around and disrespect him publicly, some men can't come back from that. Some of them can't recover from that. And you are seeking love and connection and you want them to talk to you, but you're disrespectful. And even in your conversation, when he does allow himself to be vulnerable and try to open up and have a conversation, if you're disrespectful whenever that happens, right back in the turtle shell. Or he's going to reach that threshold and then he gets disrespectful and now you're mad because he's being disrespectful. But it's all about self-control. And you said that you are not a public display of affection type of person. Naturally, you're not. But you've made the necessary adjustments because you know that that's important to me. So if you know that it's important to your spouse not to be disrespectful publicly, then you've got to exercise some self-control and make sure that you are governing yourself differently than that.
Absolutely.
So again, this has been such a good moment for me, just a good session. It feels like I just had a session with you and with Hassani. And so I want to say thank you so much. And I just want to extend my sincerest, deepest love to all the fathers out there, and just know that you are valuable, that we need you. Our communities cannot thrive without you. So keep doing what it is that you are doing. So you all enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching. I will be back next week. I don't know about these two, but I'll be back next week. So make sure you tune in next Tuesday, 12 p.m. and watch SOS.
Thank you for having me again.
It was good to have you.
Thank you.
All right, you all. Have a good one. Bye-bye.